Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to this quick bonus episode of the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Cathy Mazak. So I wanted to make a podcast episode about this question that I got when I was talking to people during their enrollment process for the Navigate program. So if you didn't know, Navigate's open right now for applications. And if you have questions, once you get through the application process and are accepted into the program, if you're like, okay, I'm accepted, but I'm not sure if I really want to do it, you can book a 15-minute call with me just to kind of help answer your questions and really make sure it's the right fit for you, because they don't want anybody taking the program if they're not sure it's the right thing. So during one of these calls, someone asked me this question, and I've gotten this question before. And actually, this is like a way of thinking. So if you're like ready to turn this episode off because you're like, oh, she's going to pitch me Navigate, listen to this, because this is like a way of thinking that I hear a lot that's holding a lot of academics back. All right, here it is. Is the time I invest in Navigate, shouldn't I just be spending that time writing? Okay, legitimate question. Let me tell you the thinking behind it that is what I really want everyone to think about. The thinking behind this is, it's this line of thinking that goes like, shouldn't I just do it myself? It's like similar to that, right? With like the time I invest in this thing, is it really going to save me or get me more time later, right? So the reason that we get hung up on this is because we're so overworked, right? Like our schedules are overburdened. We have too much to do. So here's a way that this like kind of similar line of thinking comes out, and then I'll bring it back to Navigate. So this comes out too with like, should I really train a project manager or a grad student or an assistant or somebody else to do this thing? It's going to take me so much time to train them. I should just do the thing myself. Okay. And the reason that I think this is the same line of thinking as should I use the 2 hours that's going to take me for 12 weeks? So the 24 hours that I'm going to invest in Navigate, shouldn't I just, spend that writing? The thinking here is it's a lack of acknowledgement of leverage. So I want you to start thinking about the different things that you do in your career. And I want you to kind of hold each one up against the lens of leverage. Is this thing that I'm doing something that is going to pay dividends later, maybe much later, okay? But is this something that's going to pay dividends for me? Or is it something that basically I do it has kind of surface level payoff, not leveraged payoff, okay? So I'll use the example of the training. If, let's say you have a grant and you have money in the grant for a project manager or a postdoc or some kind of person that will need your training. Sometimes we feel like, well, I could train this person to do it, or I could just do it myself. And if you continue to just do things yourself, you will have exactly as much payoff as you can put into it, right? Like you do the thing, it's done, so if it's writing an article, if it's collecting data, if it's cleaning data, like whatever, or filing reports, like this kind of thing. If you do it, it's like a one-to-one relationship, right? Like you do it, and then the next time it comes up, you do it again. The time it takes you to do is the time it takes you to do. But leveraged activities are activities where you put an hour of effort in and you're getting a much greater reward or payoff than what that hour would get you kind of in a non-leveraged activity. So I train a project manager to sort my inbox, and I never have to sort my inbox again until I have to train the next project manager. So an hour or 3 hours of your time training somebody pays off in hundreds of hours potentially. So I want you to think, what are the things I do in my career that are leveraged activities, that are things that I put in a little now and I get out so much more? I'm sure you can think of many more. But because our time is so pressed, we don't want to let go of any of it. I mean, and it's absolutely true. Like, the time is your most precious resource. You can make more money, you can't get more time. You can write more grants to get more money, we can't make more time, right? It is your most precious resource. As you go through your career, your time actually gets more and more precious because you have developed yourself, your ideas, your brain to become more and more expert and thus more and more valuable to research projects in classrooms and that kind of thing. Now, I'm not saying that people who aren't associate professors aren't valuable or something like that. But what I am saying is, just as in any profession, you get more and more valuable to the profession as you continue to develop yourself and your training and your expertise. Same thing with you, professor. You are getting more and more, your time is getting even more and more precious and valuable the farther along you go in your career. And yet some of us will hold on to this, like, I don't want to give a couple of hours to leveraged activities. I'm just going to do it myself. And that is a big thought error that is holding you back in a lot of ways. And to me, that is one of the main mid-career problems that I see as well, is that people have been doing it themselves for so long because maybe they didn't have access to resources to do it some other way, to do it more leveraged. Been doing it themselves so long that, again, just like this Tuesday's podcast episode, it's hard to do something different than what you've done before, but so necessary. So I want you to think about the activities you do in your career. What are the leveraged ones? The ones that, just picture that little simple machine, right? The lever. Like, how is it leveraged? My answer to the question of, like, the 2 hours a week I was going to put into Navigate, should I just put that into writing? Like, my answer is partially like, yes. But also, are you? Like, will you do that? Do you have the 2 hours? Can you hold the 2 hours? What Navigate does is, when you spend your 2 hours a week for 12 weeks on your writing practice and your publishing abilities in the Navigate program, it's leveraged. You are learning a system that is going to pay off in dividends throughout your career. So when you learn pipeline management, you're not just managing your pipeline once, you're managing your pipeline forever. You have to practice it. Sometimes things get out of control and then you have to redo. That's part of any kind of development. That's why our development scale is unaware, aware, learning, integrated, mastery, because it's a scale. It's not, and then you might go back and forth in the different levels, right? When you learn inside of Navigate how to make better decisions about your time, and then you clear space on your calendar, that is a process. Once you learn it and you have done it one time, yeah, you might have to do it again. But the next time you do it, it'll be easier, faster, and you get such a bigger result. So in Navigate, it's a 12-week program. People often ask, how much time does it take? It takes about 2 hours a week. One of the hours is on our live call, which happens on Fridays at noon Eastern for our next cohort, for example. So that call lasts 50 minutes, about an hour, right? And half of those calls, you're being coached. So you're asking questions about the materials, you're changing your mindset, you're bonding with other people who are having similar problems to you and learning how they solve them. And then the other half of that time, you are writing. So that 6 hours of it, you're writing. The other hour each week is spent looking at the materials. Every week, a new set of materials drops. They are meant to be completed in an hour. So the video might be 20 minutes long. It might be 30 minutes long. And then there's usually a worksheet or an exercise or something that you have to do. And some weeks it will take you 30 minutes to do it. We hope that it doesn't take you more than an hour. So for 12 weeks, yes, you are spending 2 hours a week on the program. And yes, if you have a backlog of papers and I could wave a magic wand for you and give you 24 hours of writing, I would do that. The question is, if you're not spending 2 hours, and this is just an example, by the way, the 2 hours part, like many people who come in to Navigate aren't spending consistently 2 hours a week at all. Instead, they're binge and bust writing usually. But people also come into the program and they do have a consistent writing practice, but what they don't have is like the project management and the pipeline management part. And they might want to add 2 hours to their writing practice per week. Anyway, those 2 hours that you spend in Navigate are going to pay off hugely in your career. And so 2 hours on Navigate is leveraged. Also, if you are a person who hasn't been spending 2 hours a week and you're hesitant to take Navigate because you're like, well, maybe I should just spend 2 hours a week writing. Like, I invite you to do it. Like, I invite you to block the 2 hours on your calendar and consistently hold that writing time for 12 weeks. If you can do that, then yeah, maybe you don't need Navigate. Or maybe when you do that, you'll realize there's some other problems that Navigate solves that you still have, right? The writing project management, the pipeline management, the writing practice itself, the time management. It's up to you. But the angle I want you to take when you're trying to make leveraged decisions is, does this activity, is it a leveraged activity? Is it something that the effort I put in now has a disproportionate payoff for me? So that is something that whether you take Navigate or not, that you should be thinking as you develop in your career, as you get closer and closer to mid-career or through mid-career. That is the question, especially for those of you who are post-tenure, to really start to ask yourself is, how am I using my time in a leveraged way? Taking Navigate is absolutely a way to do that. And the things you learn in Navigate will then help you do that more. All right. Applications are closing for the next round of Navigate. So if you want in, then you need to go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate, find the pink button and apply. We're closing applications on Friday. Can't wait to see yours. Bye. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.